Hi, I'm Jackie Jensen. This is Carolina Crafting. Today we're at one of my favorite spots in Murphy. We're at Bless My Stitches Quilt Shop. Let's go inside and see what Karen's doing today. This is the block we're going to learn to do today. This is a double Z. We're in Bless My Stitches with Karen Hopple. Karen, you have a really neat shop. I've been in here a lot and don't spend enough obviously, but I spend a lot of time getting inspiration. I love this shop. How long have you been in business?
This will be my 4th year.
Wow, that's good. And downtown Murphy.
Yes, right across from the Hen Theater.
That was sad about the hen burning.
Yeah,
it's such an old.
They're working on it though, making it bigger and better.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
Progress comes to Murphy.
That's right.
Tell me about this. This is a quilt box. You can explain all about it. When I was a little girl, around 4, I used to sit at my great grandmother's knee cutting out little squares of fabric, and she and her sisters would sit around, and they had a little cardboard template, and they would sit for hours, and I guess they had enough to do everybody's family a quilt. We all used all of the leftover shirts and clothes and stuff from and I love the stories sitting around. And now we have modern day quilting bees, and I think this box is a beginning of that.
This is what we call our shoebox swap. This is good for all of the quilters that have a stash. What we did was we got 11 women, and we're eventually going to make a quilt that will have 12 blocks. 11 different women are in this club, like I said, and what you do is you get a shoebox. It's kind of like an old-fashioned round robin that we used to have at Quilting Bees. We've kind of modernized it. I'm the drop-off point at the shop. And inside your own box, your shoebox, you put in a yard of background fabric and fat quarters or at least quarter-yard cuts of as many different other colors that you want. And then I put in a muslin square that we're going to use for a signature block. And everyone that makes a block in this signs their name, and it can go on a label on the back of the quilt. So far, 3 women have made blocks for this quilt, and I will show you some of her fabric. She's using a light background and several other colors to choose from. And when you get the box, you can make whatever block you want with whatever colors that you want.
So she puts in the background and the fabric, and then the person who makes the square uses a different...
Can pick and choose whatever pattern they want of their own, whatever their favorite is. They can make the same block for everybody's box or a different block, whatever they are inspired by the fabric to do.
Well, some of these, like this one speaks to me for some reason. I love that one, the dogwood. Yeah, that one's cool, especially for this time of year.
And it's our state flower, so
that's right.
That's a good one. Here's so far what people have done. There's the first one we have.
You know the name of this?
This is a basic square in a square.
Square in a square.
Okay. And this one is called Steps to the Altar.
There's an Early Fowler book called Steps to the Altar. Now I know what the...
We had a club a few years ago, and we read a mystery book club, and we read the books every month, and then we made the block.
Oh, how cool.
It was nice.
I just bought two of the books.
This is called Eleanor Roosevelt's Necktie. This is from the 1941 Victory Quilts that Eleanor Burns has a book out for. We also have a club where we make all these 1941s blocks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So much history is
Yes.
it in quilts. I mean, it's amazing.
I'm going to make what's called a double Z. It's just a plain traditional block with 12 squares, and they're all made out of half square triangles. So that's what I'm going to show you how to make today. There's a little formula for making half square triangles. When you know your finished size, I know I want a 3-inch. It's basically going to lay out like this. This is also a 12-inch or 12 patch block. We know we want the blocks to finish at 3 inches. So the formula for doing that is adding 7/8 of an inch to the finished size that you want. So that means I need to cut out 3 7/8 inch blocks to be able to make the half square triangle a tricky way I like to do them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut 3 7/8 inch squares. Remember, we want to have a finished 3-inch square, so we have to add 7/8 of an inch for the way that I'm going to cut this half square triangle. So I'm going to put it on 3 7/8, which is one little mark before the 4. Okay, here's my 3 7/8 inch, here's my 3 7/8 inch, and I'm going to cut through all 4 layers of fabric. Okay, that gives me 4 squares. Okay, I need to cut 4 more. Okay, now I have 8. Okay, that's going to be my dark square, and now I need a light square. So I'm going to cut the same thing out of this. See where I can cut. So let's just cut 5-inch squares first, and then I'll trim it down. Spin this around. 3 7/8 and 3 7/8. There's 4 there. Okay. That's all we need. We need 8 light and 8 dark to make the block we're going to make.
I noticed the tools are so much different now, from the old scissors to the rotary cutters.
Yes. When I learned to quilt, we used templates made out of cardboard and pencils to trace them, and use scissors to cut them. So there were 3 errors of measurement right there. First of all, we used a template, so when we traced around it, of course I used a regular lead pencil, which the round part of the lead got fatter and skinnier as I was drawing with it. So that was an error of measurement there. We cut with the scissors, another error of measurement. So we had a lot of getting off before we ever even started to sew. And this makes it so much more accurate because you can press right up to the template here. It doesn't change in size because it's made out of acrylic instead of cardboard that as you cut can get smaller, or rub against will get smaller. The blade is extremely thin, extremely sharp but thin, so it's very accurate too. And the mats we cut on are self-healing, so they last for a very, very long time.
I love the mats.
Yes. Yes.
There's all these new tools are so
Yes.
cool. Is there any story about this cool little sewing machine you have?
It is. This is a featherweight machine. This one was made after the war. You can always tell with featherweights because of this here. This is very straight and plain. If it's got a prettier design like a paisley or some type of fancier design, it was made before the war. You can also look them up if you ever get your hands on one. They have serial numbers, and you can look them up on the Singer website, and it'll tell you the factory and the date it was made.
Wow.
This one is March 31st, 1951.
Wow. Okay, you got those all cut out now. What's the next step?
Now we're going to draw a diagonal line across all of the backs of the light colored ones, only because it's easy to see on the light.
Right.
So all I'm going to do is take my pencil. Now I do use a mechanical pencil instead of a regular lead pencil because the lead is consistent.
Right.
It's always the same size. Okay. So we just go from corner to corner and draw a line. Do the same thing on all of them. And now, if it makes you more comfortable, you can take the time to draw a 1/4 inch on either side of that line, like this, and like this. Or, I don't ever bother to do that. I just draw the one line going across, and I use my 1/4 inch foot, and that's my guide. I just sew a 1/4 inch on either side.
I like things where you
Okay.
can just use
Yes.
what's there.
Yes,
It's so much
that's right,
easier.
That's right. So we're going to do that on all of these. Now that we have our lines drawn on the back of all the light color squares, we're going to take one from the dark pile and one from the light pile, and we're going to put them right sides together. And I'm just matching them up so that they're square. I'm going to take it over to the machine, and like I said, I'm just going to use my foot, but if you're more comfortable drawing the line, you can. There's also a little tool that draws a 1/4 of an inch, or has a 1/4 of an inch on each side. You could use that. Now when I do this, I usually like to do a scant 1/4 of an inch, because when I open this up, I like to trim down rather than not have enough. So I'm going to pile my next one on. And I'm just assembly line sewing these, one right after the other.
Okay, now you have 7 squares?
Eight
8
squares.
squares, okay.
Yep.
What's next?
Now we have them all connected in this little clothesline cord. Okay, we did a 1/4 on one side of the line. Now I'm just going to put it right back in again, put this all on my lap, and I'm going to sew from the other side a 1/4 inch on the other side.
That took me a second. Now I think I realize what it's going to look like when it's done. I was wondering why you had the 2 lines. Now I think I'll know
Yep.
pretty soon, right?
You will. This is the magic way to get half square triangles done. This alleviates cutting and sewing on the bias.
Because that would stretch,
That's
right?
right. We are sewing across the bias, but the fabric is still in a square, so there's no stretch to it.
I even love the sound of this machine. You know how
Yes.
men like the sound of old cars?
Yes.
I like the sound of this old sewing machine.
That's a good thing. Now I'm just going to cut them apart. And here, when we're done, we have 8 blocks. Okay. And then we're going to take them, we're going to put our ruler back down, and on that center line that we sewed through, on our center line we're going to sew, that we did sew through, we're going to chop right down the middle. And what you see, after you chop down, you open it up,
Cool.
and you have a half square triangle, one side light and one side dark. And because we made 8, that'll finish with 16 half square triangles. Chop right down the middle, and when you open it up, you get one here and one here.
Okay, now you've sewn those together. How are we going to put them together?
Okay. Now there's a lot of options with half square triangles. You can make, there's a million different designs out there, but what I'm going to do is, I have a copy of one of my last year's block of the month, so I'm going to lay it out in a double Z pattern. Okay? So I'm just going to look at that and lay it out. And make a design.
I'd have to do a diagram.
Yeah. And my last 2, this one goes here, and this one goes here.
Now, is there another step before you sew these together?
There is. I need to make sure that these are squared up first to make sure that they're exactly 3.5 inch squares before we sew them together.
I've heard
Okay.
the term square up. Now I'm
Yep.
going to finally learn what that
Yes.
means.
Yes, yes. Now I'm going to trim them up to 3.5 by 3.5. okay, which is, here's the 3.5-inch mark here and the 3.5-inch mark here. And I'm keeping the diagonal on the fabric, okay? Now I just go up and over, and
Ta-da!
it should be a 3.5-inch square.
This is moving faster than I thought. You've already got this all, yes, I can see a quilt block. It's there. So.
Yes. So this is what we're going to do. I like to lay them out, double check that I have them right, walk away for a few minutes maybe and come back again and see if it looks like looks like your pattern or your layout. And then I like to do things in rows like this. What I'm going to do is pick up my second row and I'm going to turn it over on my first row because I like to assembly line stitch. Just like we did those triangles, we're going to do the same thing here. I flipped them over and now I'm going to make a straight line right down here. Okay? So I'm going to take the top one and line them up. If you'd like to use pins, feel free to do that. I'm not a pinning kind of person.
I noticed you don't do a lock stitch. It's because you're repeatedly
in
sewing
quilting,
over.
right. In quilting, we don't need to do a lock stitch because we are constantly sewing over every end that we sew together. The other thing in quilting is you can use gray thread. If you see up here, I have gray thread. I never change my color thread unless maybe I'm working with an all-white quilt or an all-black quilt. I use gray for everything. It's a great neutral. And because, as you saw before, I press my seam allowances in one direction, you never see the stitching.
Looks like you just have 4 more
That's right.
rows.
4 more seams.
That's amazing.
Now I'm going to take and I'm going to put these rows together by flipping like this. Okay. It's still connected, but that's okay. I can pick it up or cut it. Clip right here. Okay. We want to just pick up 2. And I'm going to start at the top, match my seams. Then, if you like to pin, you can pin. I like to match when I get there. Okay, that was the last stitch.
Yay. Oh, look at
And
that.
there's our finished block.
You may have a convert. I used to think this
Okay.
takes so long, and now
No.
it really doesn't take
No.
that long.
And you're going to take it over to the ironing board and press it. You're going to clip all your little threads.
And
Once you're finished.
how many of these blocks would it take to make a standard quilt?
I would say you could do 3 across and 4 down. Put some lattice work in between them, a border or 2. You'd have a twin size. Yep.
Not that bad.
So now I'm going to press this nice, and then I'm going to take the little label, and I'm going to put my name. I'm the fourth woman that has put a block in her box. And then at the end of the year, she will have 12 different blocks to put together any way she chooses. And one of them is from me and 3 other women.
What a great memory for her,
How's that
too.
neat?
That is so neat.
And a label to go on the back.
That's so neat.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed this so much and learned
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good, thank you. I'm glad
You're
you did.
welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wasn't that fun? I learned so much. Hope you did too. Thanks for watching.